All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Loudmouth MMA podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Steele. Today we are doing another episode of Around the Cage. But before we get started, as always, let's listen to that beautiful theme music.
You've got a gun, got a big gun, got a gun. It's not a real one, and all you ever think about is running away. All you ever think about is trying to stay away. Stay away from me.
And here we are. I was going to say we are live, but we're not technically live. We're live in real life, but we're not live on the internets. So let's introduce everybody. Today we are running kind of a different crew. As always, we never have the same crew. But we're also going to change things up a little bit since we only got 3 guests on the show. So I want to introduce Blake first. Blake, it's been a little while, my friend. How's it going?
Yeah, Money Blake Weather in the building. Hard work. Hard work.
And the response you got right there was the same response that Floyd Mayweather got when he did that at all of his stops. Of course,
Yeah.
Derek Bowe, Mr. Derek Bowe.
You'll do fucking nothing.
That's, I mean, I don't know what was worse, the response that Blake got or your Irish accent.
It was pretty bad, admittedly. It was bad.
Derek, it's been a little while as well, man. How's it going?
It has, and it's been wonderful, man. I'm doing good. Glad to be back. Ready to rock. Let's do this.
And a returning guest. He killed it, slayed it the last time he was on. So we figured let's reach into that well again. Mr. Jordan Killian, how's it going?
What's up? Well, it's going great, man. I'm just glad to be back. And I guess if they're going to be the fighters, if we got Money Blake Weather and then we got Connor, terrible Irish accent Derek Bowe there, I'll just turn into a tomato and be Dana White.
or strawberry ice cream as that
That meme.
that incredible meme.
Oh, that was good.
That incredible meme. Let me. I want to get. Oh no! I opened up my Facebooks that way I could get like our information out of it. And, jeez, oh Pete's! I got so many pop-ups. All right, I feel like I'm on Sherdog. Bing. Anytime I get to slam Sherdog, I will gladly take it. Okay, let me explain the rules. These are the rules that are staying the same. Each of my guests will get 90 seconds, and they will mute their mic whenever they're not talking, and they will get 90 seconds to answer each question. If I feel that there is time for a rebuttal, I will gladly give them time for a rebuttal. But, you know, Daddy Dane over here, I get to decide. I get to decide if they get that rebuttal. What else? Okay, that's what's staying the same. The scoring is going to change up a little bit this week. First of all, nobody's going to get kicked off the show. There's only 3 people, so all 3 of them are going to stay to the end. Instead of having 6 questions like we normally do, we're just going to have the 5. And I'm also going to change the scoring up a little bit. Everyone can get a maximum of 10 points, and I'll basically just, as people are talking, I'll kind of award points in my mind and let them all know when we are done. So again, I tried to give a hint. Remember, when you're not talking, to please mute your mic, because there's a lot of background noise. Blake. And, like, oh, he just doesn't do it. Blake, you're my friend.
I know.
Well, I guess we'll start with you then. So, the first question, I would say we all ready to go, but I already know. The first question of this episode of Around the Cage is, should in-fight fouls be punished more often? How many warnings should fighters get? You know, let's set some type of criteria. You know, I'll give some examples here. When I was watching the Joseph Benavidez, Henry Cejudo fight, you know, Henry Cejudo had 2 accidental nut shots. On the second one, he was immediately given a penalty. In other fights, I've seen 3-4 warnings for the same type of thing. So, you know, what is the criteria? Should there be criteria? Should always just be left up to the ref? Blake, you let me know. Guide my opinion. Good sir. And your 90 seconds.
Just 90? Oh, my God.
Your 90 seconds are on the clock.
Yeah. what can I say? Yeah, I think that there should be harsh. I don't know if harsher penalties is it. I think there needs to be more consistent penalties given around the board. And I mean, I've spoken with MMA referee Bobby Wambach about the same thing. And I mean, I can see why it's hard to have a standard for every single, like warning or penalty, but there needs to be a standard. It can't be inconsistent. So should in-fight bouts be funneled more and warnings? How many warnings? So I think for nut shots, you could do 3, but for like eye pokes, it's like 2, and then you get a point taken away, man. And I don't even know if it's about just harsher criteria. Maybe the ref needs to keep a better eye on some shit, because there are too many fights that are going on, like this one from last weekend with Gunnar Nelson and Ponzinibbio, and like eye pokes are the game changer. Just like when Mirko Krokop fought Mustafa El Turk at UFC 99, he eye poked and then he knocked dude out. I don't know, maybe instant replay. There needs to be something where the referee can go back if coaches or somebody sees it. They need to go back to if they can go to instant replays for like people kneeing you on the head when you got hands down and shit like that. There needs to be instant replays. So maybe better critiquing and overall a standard for given penalties.
Thank you, Blake. Same question to you, Mr. Derek Bowe.
Yes, they absolutely do need to be punished more often because there's so much discretion in the referee's hands, and it varies from referee to referee. So you get almost no consistency with a different referee in play. So therefore, there needs to be some structure here, and this is how I believe the structure should go. You have eye pokes, you have groin shots, and you have knees or kicks to the downed opponent. Those all need to be one warning. The next time you take a point or say a kick or knee to the downed opponent is. If either of these are severe enough, it can also result in disqualification. But it needs to be one warning, 1 point, disqualification. I think that's the tier you need to go. Now to address the most common offense, and it's almost never enforced, is fence grabs. I think the one who enforces it the best is what's his name? Oh my gosh, Mark Goddard. He enforces things very, very well in that regard, but he's pretty much the only one. Now, fence grabs being the most common offense, they've altered some really serious fights, and Aldo Mendez won, where Mendez grabbed the fence and Aldo turned around and knocked him out within 15 seconds after that happened, preventing a takedown, Aldo did, by Mendez. The first fence grab needs to be a warning. Now, as that discretion comes into play by the referee, they need to then award the takedown if it did prevent a takedown. Or conversely, if a guy's trying to get back to his
15
feet,
seconds.
then they need to they need to re-give that position that the guy on top had and the guy got back to his feet. So, but if it's the second offense, it needs to be a point taken and reset to the same position. It always needs to reset to the same position or the position trying to be acquired by the non-offender.
Time is up. Thank you, Derek. And Jordan, you're the only other one, so it's on you.
You know what? I'm kind of surprised that I'm agreeing so much with Derek on this one, but I almost agree verbatim with everything he said. But you know what? I'm gonna expand my one strike you're out rule to everything. I think one time it's a warning, unless it's obviously blatant. I think the example for that would be the Uriah Hall Rafael Natal fight, where they had a lot of bad blood leading up to it, and literally right after the first round bell rings, Natal came out and hit Hall with a nut shot, very clearly intentional. I think he should have lost a point right off the bat for that. But I think overall, yeah, eye pokes, groin strikes, knees to a down opponent, whether it stops the fight or not, and fence grabs. One time you get a warning. After that, it's a point every single time. I think it's altered too many fights, and it has not been enforced correctly, and I've gone back and forth. I've actually disagreed with referees about this. I talked to Kevin McDonald, I talked to Jason Herzog, both of them about this, and I disagree with them. They say, a lot of times it's a guy, it's a natural instinct, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't actually prevent something or, alter the fight, but I disagree. I mean, there's a lot of examples you can look at. Nelson Ponzinibbio, that altered the fight. Look at Travis Brown versus Matt Mitrione. Mitrione was winning that fight and got poked in the eye and then couldn't see. They didn't do anything. They didn't even warn Travis Brown, and he went on to win the fight because Mitrione couldn't see. So, I mean, it's happened multiple times that we've never seen something actually done about it. So I just think that a one-and-done rule, let me just leave it like this. What's to prevent a guy from actually going out and cheating the rules if there's no punishment for it?
Thank you very much. I always like to say my piece at the end of these. One thing I will say, the Mitrione Travis Brown is one of the most egregious examples of how do you not take a point. I mean, holy shit. I mean, at some point, Brown should have just been disqualified. I mean, it was one of the most egregious things that I've seen. But I'm really glad that Derek mentioned the fence grabs, because that's one of my biggest pet peeves, is that the amount of fence grabs we have, nobody ever does anything about it, practically ever. And it's just like, what's to stop me from literally adding fence grabbing as a part of my training regimen, knowing that I'm going to be able to grab that fence 3, 4, 5 times with little to no anything. I may not even get a warning. I mean, it's one of those things. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was definitely one of the things I have a severe problem with. Okay, as far as the scoring is concerned, Derek, you got 7. Jordan, you got 6. Blake, you got 3. Alrighty. Let's move on to the next question here. This one is going to Derek. By the way, all good answers. Thank you very much. Blake. Sorry.
My answer was shit, dude.
Sorry. Derek. I meant to say Derek. Oh, yeah, you got 3 points, Blake.
No, my answer was shit. You shouldn't even give me credit for that one. Thank you, though.
You're welcome. I like that. I like that the man will admit it. He'll come out and say it. You sounded very underprepared. Okay, Derek.
Yes.
What did the press conferences get in? And of course, we're referring to Mayweather, McGregor. What did they do right? What did they do wrong? I'm interested in your perspective. I'm interested in everyone's perspective here. What did they get right? What did they get wrong? Very similar to a Bellator question we asked a couple weeks ago.
There wasn't a lot that Showtime got right with these press conferences, from expecting the fighters to literally roughly give a 15-minute insult-laden tirade to their adversary, to allowing entourages on stage along with each fighter. Like, that's just crazy to me. One thing that they did right was giving them worthwhile entrances. I thought the entrances were done really, really well. The video montages, the music, that was really cool. I thought the theatrics there were really, really nice. But one thing that I think that they could have improved upon is the way that they handled these things. As I noted, the 15-minute tirades it just got stale after the third or fourth one. Well, not even third or fourth. I'll say second it got stale, let's just say. What I think they should have done was allow some fans to submit questions. Now, obviously, this gets crazy, but then have Showtime or the production company select these questions and ask them as if with a mediator to these fighters and have them address each other that way. I think that's a good way to keep the press conference moving along, and a new way to do things, because you can't follow how it's been done before. You got to give something else. Give the fans some engagement. I think that would have been really cool. However, after those questions completed, I think what you do is you turn it over to the media in the way that you do with UFC press conferences, and allow them to then give their questions up in front of the audience rather than backstage like they did. Because I think we missed out a lot on these media questions, having them given backstage. We had to watch something else that we already watched this show live. Then we got to go back to YouTube and watch something else that's happening again. So it's like you get 2 parts to these press conferences, and you're probably missing the better part of it, to be completely honest. Because Mayweather's back and forth with McGregor's back and forth with Floyd's dad was probably the best part of this whole thing. Let's be real.
Time is up, my friend. Jordan.
I think the best thing that they did was allowing the fans to be a part of it. And could they have been more a part of it? Yes. But I think the idea of, instead of doing it in a conference room and having the press there, i.e. a typical boxing press conference, they did it in stadiums and in big places where you've got these huge crowds. And that was the thing they got right, because, hearing people lose their mind, and obviously McGregor's the fan favorite in this scenario as far as the press conferences are concerned. But so I think allowing for these huge spectacles and having all these fans, and they're creating an atmosphere, I think that's one thing they got right. The rest of it, I think they got wrong. I think that it was way too drawn out, kind of what Derek said. I think, honestly, they probably should have done 1, if not 2, and they should have spread them out rather than doing back to back to back, because honestly, after the first day, it was the same insults over and over, and it was honestly just really tiring, I think. You look at day 1, Conor got him with the tax joke, haha. Conor got him with the you hit girls joke, haha. Floyd came back with a really scripted answer, yeah, I'm the tax man, I'm going to tax that ass, haha. So it was just the same thing over and over. He said, oh, look, you dress like an idiot, you can't read, haha. So, it's the jokes you expected to hear, but we had to hear it multiple days in a row. It was that was really tiresome on in my opinion. So I think they should have spread them out more.
15 seconds.
Do the one in LA, cool. Wait a week, wait a couple weeks, go do the one in Toronto. Wait a week, wait a couple weeks, go do the one in New York. Wait a week, wait a couple weeks, go do the one in London. That's how I think they should have done it.
Thank you very much, sir. Blake, I know how much you love talking about this stuff, so give it to me. What did they get right, and what did they get wrong?
Yeah, I feel like all those are obvious answers. Mine was more the small stuff that added up to the big stuff. What they did right is they did all the social media streams. They made it easy to find. They put on YouTube. They put on UFC's YouTube. They put on Showtime's YouTube. They put on UFC's Facebook. They put on Showtime's Facebook for Facebook Live. It's really easy to find, really easy to share, really easy to watch. They did the pre-commentary team right. I liked Polly. I liked Mauro. I liked even Brian when he was in there. I love Brendan. They did right. They picked the right cities to get, the right energy going. They picked, you know what they did right? They picked Drake when they went to, Toronto. What they did wrong, who the hell cares about Dougie Fresh? Hey, y'all remember this song right here? All right, y'all don't know. Okay, y'all remember this one when it was summertime? All right, y'all know that? Okay, that was horrible. What they did wrong, they didn't give enough prep time to test the mics. The stream software, the volume was so inconsistent from stream to stream. Also, that they did wrong was Skybox should have flew over Paulie, Brian, and Brendan instead of the English dudes. Because listen, I love boxing, and even though they had Eubank on there, that shit was boring as fuck when they went to Britain. And I was watching that shit in London, I was like, oh my God, now I know how these other people feel when they're like, what is this commentary team doing? So I thought all those things was done right and all those things was done wrong. And those little things add up to the big things.
10 seconds.
And that's all my piece right there. That's all I had to speak. I'm done.
Oh, you guys could not hear me talking, could you?
Nope.
No.
I was talking as soon as Blake was finished. I had it on mute.
We just thought you got taken back by Blake's answer so much. It was so wonderful.
Right. No, I thought Blake, you did a great job, and this is why you did a great job. I think you answered. I have not heard anybody talking about any of those things. Like legit, I haven't heard anybody talking about because one of the things that I also loved. Well, I was like, dude, this is one of the most accessible press conferences that I've ever seen. I mean, it was everywhere. Yeah. Everybody was streaming.
They did a very good job with the streaming. I completely agree with that.
That's a very, very good point. So Blake, I'm going to give you 7 for that one.
Thanks, man.
You're very welcome. You earned it. And,
yes.
And Jordan and Derek, I'm going to give both you guys 6s. Also had very solid answers. Okay, my piece on this one. Yeah, I mean, the first day was really the one that got me. Once we got past the first day and I kind of understood what was going on, I was pretty cool with it. But the day one, I was pissed. I mean, I was like, this is the dumbest thing on planet Earth. Anybody who watches boxing should not be okay with this type of a press conference. This is nonsense. But once it got going along, it wasn't that bad. But they also scaled it back. I mean, it wasn't... If you look at the first press conference and then look at the second press conference, the whole thing's different. They changed something. So that I thought that was good. I mean, positives, I agree with Blake. I mean, holy shit, it was super accessible. It was fantastic. I think they did a really good job with that. All right, Jordan, you are up first for our third question here. Boy, I hope you guys read this one, because this is a tough question to answer if you didn't start looking into this one right away. I really love this question because I'm interested in what your answers are going to be. Okay, best current or past, so you can do past or current, UFC gatekeeper. Who has been the best gatekeeper to fight or is currently fighting in the UFC? Your time starts now, Jordan. Go.
It's a hard question because I had my initial thoughts, but I think the guys that jumped to my head were like Uriah Faber, and I started thinking about it more, and I'm like, is that actually a gatekeeper, a guy who fought for belts? So I went and looked up where the term comes from. And the term are obviously originally derives from boxing, which most of the terms in MMA that we use are kind of old stalwarts from the old boxing era. And it is the old boxing adage for a gatekeeper. It's a guy who's skillful and well regarded, but he doesn't necessarily have the popularity of a title contender, and he's not good enough to get to a title contending situation. He's better than journeyman, but he's not quite a title guy. So in my mind, I'm picturing that as a guy who's ridden most of his career in the 5 to 15 range. He's not quite good enough to fight for a belt, but he's much better than that second tier of fighters in their division. And the guy that comes to my mind when I think about it enough is Joe Lozon. I think Joe Lozon he's been around for a very long time. His first UFC fight was back in 2006, where he beats Jens Pulver. He's a young guy then. From there, he's had mostly wins. He's got a good record. He's obviously got a ton of finishes. He's got a ton of bonuses, but he's never quite been able to get that gap. Every time he faces a guy who's a legit talent, he's lost. He had that fight with Anthony Pettis that he couldn't get past. Even going back to Kenny Florian when he was on his rise going towards the title, Joe couldn't get past him. So I think if you're looking at the actual definition of a gatekeeper, it's Joe Lozon.
Very, very good answer, my friend. Blake, you are up next.
Yeah, my favorite gatekeeper is Clay Guida, man. And I feel like he's a different gatekeeper of different things at different times. So sometimes he's a gatekeeper to welcome you to the UFC, welcome Anthony Pettis, and then gets that win. And they were all like, oh, shit, how's Anthony Pettis going to do? But then sometimes he's a gatekeeper for the belt. Like there was one point where he fought Diego Sanchez, and we really thought like whoever won that might even get a title shot. And Diego Sanchez got a title shot off of that. And even to go up and down to where you want to go to in the division. I mean, fighting people like Benson Henderson, never really getting that win. Fighting at 145, fighting somebody like Dennis Bermudez. Because that way we could see, is this kid the future, or is he, just kind of going to be in there? Even somebody like Brian Ortega, even somebody like on what we thought was going to be maybe on the up and up, like recently Eric Koch. We thought maybe Eric Koch could do some damage. And there's that gatekeeper, Clay Guida, just kind of bouncing back and forth with his ruffly hair. And we don't know where the fuck he's been at, but he's been gatekeeping some other shit. So I think really he is the premier gatekeeper of like, just depends on where you want to go and what you want to do with your career. And you got to get through that boss to get to, where you want to go. Do you want to be in top 15?
10 seconds.
Do you want to get a title fight? Do you want to do some gatekeeping shit yourself? Beat Clay Guida or go fight Clay Guida.
One of the points you got was from you saying he was gatekeeping some other shit. I really love the idea of Clay Guida just walking around his normal life, just gatekeeping, whatever that means.
You want to get to the back of the backyard barbecue? You got to go through Clay Guida.
Gotta go through Clay Guida. You ain't getting back there. He's just in his normal life gatekeeping. That sounds like a future commercial. It's just Clay Guida, always the perennial gatekeeper.
Gatekeeping services. I love it.
All right, Derek. Give it to me.
While I like both of those guys as two gatekeepers, I think both those guys are part-time gatekeepers because both of them have been used for fun fights a lot of the time rather than actually just being an actual gatekeeper. Now, in my opinion, kind of like the define as Jordan says, perfect gatekeeper is someone who can be beaten. They're able to be a stout enough test to give unworthy competitors difficulty. And if they're good enough, they defeat them. One guy who I think is perfect and has always been a gatekeeper is Gleison Tebow. I think he's always been a very tough out and has served as a near-perfect measuring barometer of upcoming talent. Tebow does this about as good as anybody can. He's got a mixed bag of victories against Jim Miller, Jeremy Stevens, Melvin Gillard, Rafael Dos Anjos, Francisco Trinaldo, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Michael Johnson, and Tony Ferguson. All were former ascending prospects or current contenders now. If that's not the definition of a gatekeeper, I don't know what is. And he's been doing it all the time. He is the premier gatekeeper in the UFC because he literally fits that bill. He can be defeated, and he can also defeat people. I'm good.
Wow. And you were able to give that answer in 1 minute and 3 seconds.
That's right.
Derek, that was a near flawless round, buddy.
Thank you, good sir.
I'm gonna give you 9 points for that one.
Nice.
I'm gonna give you a solid 9. Jordan, I'm gonna give you a solid 7. Blake, I'm gonna give you a solid 6, my friend. That was a good one. Nobody said the one that I was thinking. Do any of you guys want to throw out like another name that was kind of on the top of your head that wasn't mentioned?
Ross Pearson.
Ross Pearson. Okay.
The funny thing is, I would have said Michael Bisping before he won the title.
That was my first thought. Before he won the title, Bisping was always the premier gatekeeper. You're right.
Yes.
That's really funny. I was going to say Jake Ellenberger.
Yeah, that's a good one. He crossed my
I
mind
think
too.
so. Yeah.
That was the one I thought when I was coming up with the question. I'm trying to keep up the things that's going along. Man, Derek, you're on your fucking game today, man.
I took a couple weeks off, man. I needed some rest to reset the mind and bring it hard this time.
That's what we need. Bringing the heat. All right. Are we back to Blake now? Back to Blake kicking us off?
I guess.
I think this is question 4. Question 4.
Okay.
I like this question. I'm interested. This was Keith's assistance. I texted Keith to see if he wanted to submit us any questions, and this is one of the ones. One of the questions I asked was something I'd already come up with, and he said he wanted to hear, so that's even better. But this is the other one. Should the UFC get rid of Tough? And if not, should anything change, or is it just great the way it is? And that's an acceptable answer. I'm not trying to sway anybody. You can say, listen, they're doing great things. This is what they're doing great. I got no problem with that answer, obviously. So I'm just saying I don't want to sway anybody. So, Blake, what do you think? What should we do with Tough moving forward?
Man, I've been saying this. Y'all need to get rid of Tough. If y'all can hear my ghetto clap, I had to put my phone down. Get that ghetto clap in. Y'all need to get rid of Tough. They need to get rid of this. Don't nobody watch it. Don't nobody like it no more. It's already been played out. It's like that girl at the party that's slutting it up with all the guys. We've already ran through that train, man. We're done with that. Let's get a new one in. Let's do some shit like this contender shit, man. Let's put some more funding into this. Let's before you bring in these 10 guys, let's go tell their story real quick as you bring them in, sort of like almost kind of like a TV show, but then it's not a TV show. But then you're seeing some fights, but then you're seeing 10 minutes of their life or something. So that way we can get invested. Even if you knock it down to 3, I think they need to invest in this contender series to replace that Tough, and then invest in some production value to follow these guys around in their normal life. Or they need to replace Tough with like a show where it's actually just the same thing I was just saying. They follow the guys in real life, see their day-to-day life as they're doing like day-to-day jobs, and then trying to fit in time for the gym, because everybody knows, if you've spoken with one of these regional fighters, that's how it really is. It's not you're in a house with alcohol and 18 other guys, and then you're trying to fight and you get to train 2 times a day. That's a luxury for some of these guys, man. So please replace that shit and then call me when it's back on, so that way I can go start watching Fox Sports 1 again at that normal recorded time.
Well, there you go, Blake. Thank you very much. Derek, that's you, my friend. What should we do with Tough?
It needs to go. And I'm going to give you some reasons why it needs to go. Because the USC is very insistent on putting fighters that have a booked fight to be coaches in this house. What does it do? It delays the fight, for one, gives them more time to get injured in camp. It's a stale format. The fans are not latching onto it anymore. We're getting 1 if we're really lucky, 2 if we're incredibly just winning the lottery type lucky of prospects out of these Ultimate Fighters. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't touch on, and I'm going to touch on here, is the reason why you need to get rid of it, is because these fighters are not fighting at their weight class a lot of times. They're forced to fight at a higher weight class to maintain their weight throughout the whole season. Thus, you're seeing guys, they won a welterweight house. Okay, well, they're going to fight at lightweight or featherweight. They're not even competing at the weight class that they're going to be fighting at in the UFC. So I think that you're not seeing them at their best. You're seeing them undersized and not in the best of shape. What I think is the worthy replacement, honestly, is the Contender Series. I love the Contender Series for that reason. You're seeing guys competing at their very best. And it's more exciting. It's not a stale format. The one time the UFC got this right is with McGregor and Faber. They were not going to fight. There was no worry about them getting injured and the fight getting canceled, because let's be real, it's been a curse. It's been an absolute curse. We get guys ooh, we're so excited to see these guys fight. Let's put him as coaches on Ultimate Fighter. Hell no, let's not put him as coaches on the Ultimate Fighter, because it's not going to happen. That fight is going to get canceled, and it's been canceled many times. Too many times for my liking. The UFC's got to learn from some mistakes. Fool me once, well, fool me 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 more times.
I cannot believe that they're about to put Justin Gaethje on ice for an entire season of The Ultimate Fighter.
Thank you.
I can't even wrap my mind around why in the world they would. I hope that dude just absolutely is able to slay on the microphone, because they better make this worth it. They better make this worth it. This is a good fight. I mean, Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, let's hope it happens.
It's a good fight. It's a good fight. I would have rather seen Eddie Alvarez fight Dustin Poirier, but anyway, that's all besides the point. Jordan, what do you think, my friend?
Yeah, I agree with Derek's points, but I guess I'm the dissenter here. I don't think the Ultimate Fighter needs to go away. Do you need to revamp it and make some changes? Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with what Derek said. I don't like to see potential matchups as coaches. I think that's silly. You know what we should do? Why don't we use some coaches as coaches rather than active fighters? Why don't you get, Dwayne Ludwig? Hey, we're going to pay you X amount of money to come to Vegas and for 4 weeks or whatever the hell it is, and we're going to shoot this. We're going to shoot this series, and we want you to coach these potential fighters. Get a couple guys to do that. Also, that kind of leads into my next point. Just shorten it. Let's do, instead of however long they go into the house for, I don't know, 6, 8 weeks, whatever, however long it is, shorten that. Make it a month. You don't need to, the cast doesn't need to be huge. We don't need to have this 16 episode season. Why don't we just do it where we go maybe 4 weeks long? You've got 8 fighters on each side, and then you do 2 fights per episode. How about we do that? That makes it more exciting. You get more fights per episode. You still get I still like the format of the guys in the house. Obviously don't like the pretentious fake drama that they do, like, oh, here, drink some alcohol now that you're out. That shit is silly. I do agree with that. But you know what? I like the dynamic of these guys being able to get away from their shitty day job, and they get the luxury of training twice a day at a state-of-the-art facility. That's fucking awesome, man. That's a great opportunity for these guys. And I think if you talk to most of them,
10 seconds.
They agree with that. They're like, dude, this is a blessing. Even though maybe I didn't win the fight, maybe I didn't get straight in the UFC, they got the opportunity to live like a professional MMA fighter for that month or 2 months, however long they were in there.
Thank you very much. Guys, by the way, and maybe it's just because there's 3 of us here, we've had no interruptions. Everybody is kept on time. This is incredible. This is incredible. Yeah. Whenever we're missing Ian and Keith, I mean, it's that's very helpful to keep things going. Jordan, my friend, you won that round. I'm going to give you, how many did I give you? I'm just putting ones as you were talking. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You got a total of 8, my friend. You're very welcome. Derek, you came in second there. You got a 7. And Blakel's, you got a 6. And I'll say at least one of those points was referring to Tough as an old, worn-out party slut.
That's what she is.
I appreciate it. So my opinion is probably most similar with Jordan, which is I don't think you need to get rid of it. I think you just need to shorten it, and you can even have fighters coach it, but you don't need to use big name fighters. I think you can get away with using some of the mid tier people, and I also think. What I really would have loved to have seen a season of The Ultimate Fighter, like maybe this next season, but obviously it's going to be the women's flyweight, which I think is... See, that's a perfect example right there, the women's flyweight. That's a perfect example of where a show like Tough, I think, does a very good job. We don't need a season of Tough to get a bunch of 185ers. That's not... We don't really need that. But to like bring up a division that's non-existent, I think that's perfect. You know, because most of those women could just kind of migrate over, even if they don't win. You just come on over because they need people, and put a season and put Mickey Gall on it. You know, get some low level people and let Mickey Gall see if he can beat somebody in a Tough house. I mean, that would be fascinating to watch. I mean, you can do just different stuff with it. It's stale. There's definitely something needs to happen.
Well, can I rebuttal and not get no points for like 10 seconds real quick?
Sure.
Because all I'm saying is that the whole thing is played out, them being in the house, them being followed by camera. people want to see, like, even Kyle, you know this, when you ask about, when you ask fighters, people want to know their day-to-day lives. They don't give no fucks if they're in no house.
And it's also
cameras.
Yeah.
They want to see what they're doing in their day-to-day house, like, and for real, not this fake shit. I think people are seeing past this fake shit. They're sick of that.
Yeah.
I would agree, like, that they could continue with stuff, but if they could follow the fighters in their day-to-day routines,
Sure.
and some exciting shit probably happens. They go to barbecues or whatever the fuck, but like, and they can edit that together. That's not my job. But
That's not my job.
That's not my job. I'm here to talk shit and drink beer. But my shit is they need to not do that routine. I agree. Like, there's probably a lot of good things it does, and the 125ers is probably a lot of good things. But I want to know what they're doing in day-to-day life to help themselves, or are they coaches? Are they working at an animal shelter? Let me know these things. Let me feel for these fighters so I feel invested when they win or lose.
Are they working at an animal shelter?
Yeah, like how that was the go-to example. Like,
love that.
like some dude's beating the shit out of everyone during the day, and then he's like taking care of puppies when he's not there.
I also,
like the toothless dude. He worked with candy. That's pretty cool.
Was I the only person you're talking about? You're talking about Nick from what was that damn show called? Looking for a fight.
Yeah.
Play with candy. No, was I also the only person that when he mentioned going to a barbecue, I was imagining Clay Guida standing out front?
He makes a guest appearance. Who knows, man?
Why not? No, I completely agree. I mean, one of the things about Tough that's really annoying is you get this feeling that, like when they introduce alcohol or whatever, that it's like they rounded up like a bunch of recovering heroin addicts and then threw one needle,
bag of heroin
and one needle in the middle of the room and said, I guess only one person can do it. And then like, that's kind of how Tough feels. Like they create this adversity for no reason. So yeah, I agree with Blake on that part of it. I think it would be much more interesting if you follow the fighters in their day to day, and then they just went and fought someone who they weren't living with. That kind of be interesting. Blake, UFC hit Blake and I up. We got you. All right, guys, we're getting on our final question here. This is let me give you guys an updated score. Blake, you are sitting at 22.
Yeah.
Jordan, hello, Jordan. You are sitting at 27. There we go. Derek, hello, Derek.
Yep.
You are sitting at 29.
Fantastic.
All right. Our last and final question. I believe this Derek is going to be starting off with this one. The question is, was DJ winning Fighter of the Year deserved? You can compare it to who was nominated, or you can compare it to people who were not nominated. It does not matter. Was DJ winning Fighter of the Year? Was that deserved? 90 seconds are on the clock.
So the question is, was it deserved? Could you give it to DJ? Absolutely, you can give it to DJ because he doesn't lose, let's be real. But is it really a fantastic accomplishment when he's kind of beating guys that, I mean, let's be honest, he really should be beating them handily. Then you can go and you can look at a guy like Conor McGregor, who won his second divisional title, making history. But I think the guy that it has to go to is Cody Garbrandt. And I think it's because he went 4-0 this year. He went from fighting Augusto Mendez outside the top 10 to beating somebody who's going to be in the Hall of Fame. One of the best fighters in the history of the sport, Dominic Cruz, guy who was pound for pound number 2 in the sport. He went from outside the top 10 to knocking out this guy and now holding the title in 1 year's time, 4-0 record. That's the biggest stretch. That's the biggest accomplishment. That is massive. That is, in my opinion, a runaway Fighter of the Year. Could you give it to Demetrius Johnson? Yeah, you could. But, he's not really taking the kind of chance. He didn't make the leap that Cody Garbrandt did. It was the most impressive what Cody Garbrandt did, not necessarily what we all expected Demetrius Johnson to do. So in my opinion, it's Cody Garbrandt in runaway fashion.
He also went from being, kind of quasi-relevant in people's minds to being extremely. I mean,
right.
that is definitely something that took place there. I mean, I had obviously watched his first fight, was like, oh, this kid's pretty cool. And then now, I mean, Jesus, he's everywhere. So, yeah, interesting. Good answer. Jordan. What do you think, my friend?
Yeah, so I think you got to look at the nominees first of all. So it's best fighter. The ESPYS gives this out every year. Typically, Floyd Mayweather wins it almost every other year. In the past, though, we have had an MMA fighter win it in the past. Ronda Rousey won it, and Conor McGregor won it. So they both won it. Conor was up for it again this year, along with DJ, who won the award. The other three were all boxers. It was Terrence Crawford, Gennady Golovkin, and Andre Ward. But I think the biggest shocker to me is that the guy I think deserved it wasn't even on the list, which is Vasyl Lomachenko. Vasyl Lomachenko is the best fighter that some people apparently don't know about. If you're just a quasi-boxing fan and you haven't watched Lomachenko fight, you are really missing out, because this dude is, in my opinion, the most exciting fighter on the planet, MMA or boxing. That's, my opinion. Maybe you want to call me a moron. A lot of people do. It's quite okay. But Vasyl Lomachenko not only had two outstanding performances in 2016, but he's doing the unthinkable. He's breaking the convention. In boxing, the typical structure of what you do is you go up through the amateur ranks and then you beat cans until you're about 30-0. You go up and you amass this crazy record, and then you actually start taking on title fights. What Vasyl Lomachenko did is he went in and he got, I believe he got a silver medal in the Olympics, right? So this dude fast-tracked it through his amateur career, went and got a medal in the Olympics, and then immediately came out, and in his first professional fight, he fought for a title. He fought a guy with 30 pro fights and won a title. He's 8-1. He beat two amazing fighters last year. Nicholas Walters was undefeated, and he made him quit in the 7th round. The guy's outstanding. He should have won Fighter of the Year.
Well, thank you very much. I do not watch boxing, so I was not sure who that was, but he definitely sounds incredibly impressive. I've heard the name. I've definitely heard the name. Blake, what is your answer, my friend?
Listen, man, Cody couldn't have won it. He's not on the list. Vasyl couldn't have won it, even though he's amazing. He keep dodging Rigondeaux, so that's why he's not on that list. And he lost to Orlando Salido, so he's not on that list. Listen, we're going to go with the people who are on the list. And of people on the list, I think, of course, Conor McGregor should have won. It's the obvious answer, right? But it's probably the better of the answer. Now, for me, boxing-wise, again, these are all people that should beat out Demetrius Johnson. Andre Ward should be on that list because it goes from year to year. Apparently, they judge it from, June to June. So from June to June, Andre beat Sergey Kovalev twice, even though whatever you want to count it, controversial. Terrence Crawford should have beat it over Demetrius Johnson. He's up and comer. He's amazing. He's undefeated. He's finally breaking out of the Omaha scene. But for me, of course, Conor McGregor should have won it. His story of redemption from beating Nate Diaz, that was an amazing story. His story of getting the second title that he always dreamed, he always imagined, he always wanted. His ability to even speculate landing a fight with Floyd Mayweather. All those are in the talks. All that's taken into account. He's on everybody's minds. Everybody knows about him. And if you're writing a movie of all 5 of these guys, the most incredible journey over the last year is Conor McGregor. He should have won it, hands down. I have no idea why they picked Demetrius Johnson. I guess because he's the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter. I don't fucking know. Dana White's changing his tune real quick to try and tell this fight. But that's what I'm saying. Demetrius Johnson should not have won. Conor McGregor should have beat him out easy.
Thank you, Blake. Guys, thank you for the episode, man. This was a lot of fun. Let me tally up the scores real quick. Derek, you got 7. And that brings your total to 36. Jordan, cool. You got an 8. That brings your score to a 35. You were right there, my friend. Blake, you got a 6. And that brings your score to a 28.
Sweet.
Seriously, guys, for real, thank you. That was a lot of fun. I guess I should give a little bit of an answer on this one. I'm cool with Demetrius winning it. I'm cool with him winning it over all of those people that were mentioned. One, I don't know a lot about boxing, so I can't really speak on that part of it. But if you're going to compare it to the other UFC fighter that was on the bill, I definitely believe I would have picked Demetrius Johnson over Conor McGregor, personally, just because I think that what he was able to do, even if he was fighting quote unquote cans, he wasn't fighting cans. He was fighting the best that his weight class has to offer, and we just don't find those people to be very good. But he has risen above all of them, so it's easy to then look at his competition and say, well, they all just suck. But yeah, I would. I'm cool with Demetrius Johnson. I got no problem. But again, I don't know anything about boxing, so I can't speak to that part of it. But guys, for real, thank you very, very much. I want to give you some time here to plug all your stuff. Blake, you're up first. Again, man, thank you very much. You did take third place, but all your answers except for that first one were very good. Your first one, you kind of phoned it in, but that's all right.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to win that one.
Plug your stuff.
Will do, man. Follow me, Loaded Joe's MMA podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. Also follow me if you want to learn about some boxing. Loudmouth Boxing. We're also on iTunes as well, and Facebook and Twitter. Thank you so much for having me. Your boy Money Blake Weather. I'm out.
Thank you, sir. You can drop off whenever you'd like. Derek, plug your stuff, my friend.
Yeah, make sure you guys call me the champ because I'm the first 2-time winner of this podcast. Just saying right now. Guys, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at DerekBo7. Hit up my Facebook page. It's Derek MMA. I was discussions there. I'm going to be going to the UFC. Follow me on there. Make sure you guys follow me.
You were breaking up quite a bit, but maybe it didn't record breaking up. I don't know. But Derek,
that I can hear. That's why.
Yeah, but thank you, my friend. You're much appreciated. Jordan,
I'm foregoing my I don't give a shit if you follow me or not, but I want to say this. If you like seeing good movies in the media, go see Dunkirk, go see Baby Driver, go support individual and unique original screenplays. Sequels to books and readings. Go see.
Man, I don't know why this is breaking up so bad.
I think the music's playing really loud. That's what it sounds like for me.
Oh, okay, you're fine. Well, I can hear you now. You're talking about Baby Driver?
Yeah, I'm saying, do yourselves a favor. Go see Baby Driver. Go see Dunkirk. I don't want, if you're like me and you're sick of sitting through sequels and remakes and bullshit in the movie theaters and you expect more, go support original screenplays like Dunkirk, like Baby Driver. I don't give a shit if you follow me on Twitter. Go see those movies.
There you go. All right, man. It was a pleasure. Of course, you guys can follow me at Loudmouth MMA on